The story begins with an exciting basketball game. There were only 44 seconds left to win. A player named Mason scored 2 baskets in a row at the last moment, winning the game for his team. Everyone in the stadium started cheering with excitement. But something strange was happening to Mason. Suddenly, in the crowd of spectators, he saw a burned, terrifying creature. Frightened, Mason quickly left the court and went to the locker room. Inside his locker, he had previously hidden an old mysterious artifact. The creature was slowly moving toward him. In panic, Mason grabbed the artifact and smashed it into pieces. When the rest of the team arrived, everything seemed normal, and the celebration began. To calm himself down, Mason went to take a shower. Suddenly, the burned creature appeared again. This time, it attacked Mason directly, and within moments his entire body was burned by fire. The story then moves forward 6 months later. Chris is sitting in her room, drawing a picture of a bird sitting on a tree. Just then, her cousin Rael suddenly walks into the room. Chris has recently moved here, and today is her first day at a new school. As soon as she enters the school, she notices a girl named Ellie. When Chris goes to the lockers, she sees the name Hoser written on one of them, which used to be Mason's nickname. Just then, Mason's teammate Dean comes up and tells her that she can't use that locker. Meanwhile, Dean's girlfriend Grace arrives and asks, "Who is this girl?" Dean mockingly replies, "Are you the new girl who just got out of drug rehab because she killed her own father?" Hearing this, Chris becomes furious and kicks Dean, knocking him to the floor. Right then, a teacher arrives and sends all 4 of them to detention after school. A police officer says that the new girl actually didn't do anything wrong, but the strict teacher, Mr. Craven, still sends her to detention. Later, Ellie apologizes to Chris for what Dean said. Meanwhile, Chris opens her locker again and finds the same mysterious artifact inside. Out of curiosity, she opens it. Inside was a small skull-shaped whistle. The creepiest thing was that the whistle whispered Chris's full name, Chrysanthemum. Chris was just about to blow the whistle when the school bell suddenly rang. She quickly went to detention. While sitting in detention, the whistle suddenly falls out of her bag. Mr. Craven picks it up and starts examining it carefully. He immediately realizes what it is. There were strange writings carved into the whistle. After translating them, he says, "Call the dead." Then, Mr. Craven announces that the whistle is now school property, so he will not return it to Chris. Mr. Craven lists the artifact for sale online. To check whether it still works properly, he blows the whistle. Meanwhile, Rael realizes he might have left his comic book in the classroom. When he goes back, he sees Mr. Craven standing right outside the classroom. Rael peeks inside and notices that the teacher is actually trying to sell the artifact online for a very high price. Outside, Chris runs into a man named Noah. He invites Chris to come to his church, but at the same time he tries to offer her drugs, making it clear that he is actually a drug dealer. Just then, Rael arrives and intervenes, but Noah easily overpowers him and threatens them with a knife. Rael then tells Chris that Noah sells drugs to kids who come to his church. About a year ago, one of those kids died from a drug overdose. Meanwhile, when Mr. Craven opens the box again to take out the whistle, he realizes that it is no longer inside. At Grace's house, Rael shows everyone the whistle and reveals that he has it now. At the same time, Mr. Craven begins to hear strange noises. He thinks it might be Charlie. Calling out for Charlie, he walks outside, but instead of Charlie, he sees a strange-looking man standing there. Mr. Craven tells him that the school is closed and he is trespassing. Just then, Charlie actually appears beside him. Mr. Craven laughs it off and says that he must be imagining things from working too much. But when he enters the classroom again, the bald stranger appears once more. The man grabs Mr. Craven by the lungs and squeezes. Mr. Craven's hair suddenly falls out. He dies and transforms to look exactly like that strange man. That evening, all the students gather at Grace's house. In front of everyone, Grace blows the whistle. The sound is so intense that everyone covers their ears. When the sound finally stops, the atmosphere around them suddenly feels different, as if something has changed. Something begins to feel strange and unsettling. As everyone is leaving the house, Ellie invites Chris to come to a festival. She says she would really like it if Chris came. While they are leaving, Rael hands Ellie her diabetes kit. Watching Ellie walk away, Chris starts to wonder whether Ellie is even interested in boys at all. Rael laughs and says, "I guess we'll find out soon enough." That night, Chris is listening to music while typing a message to Ellie. Suddenly, she notices someone standing on a tree outside her window, watching her. Just then, Rael walks into the room. He looks outside, but no one is there. Amid all this, Chris accidentally sends the message to Ellie. Meanwhile, at Ellie's house, she is drawing a picture of a chrysanthemum flower. At the same time, Grace is still spending time by her swimming pool. Suddenly, she hears a noise. She thinks it might be her little brother, but it's something else. Grace starts to feel scared. She slowly walks over to check, but no one is there. Then she suddenly feels a hand cover her mouth. She turns around and sees that her brother is standing right behind her. He had only come to call her inside. The next morning, Rael and Chris arrive at school. There, they hear some shocking news. Mr. Craven has died. Apparently, he had stage 4 lung cancer, even though he looked completely healthy just the day before. At the same time, Ellie notices someone sitting in front of her. The person begins to move in a very strange and unnatural way. Later, Ellie and Chris go to Mason's house to return the whistle. The front door is open, and music is playing inside, making it clear that someone is home. An elderly woman comes forward and says she was born in this house and wants to die here. But the bank says the house no longer belongs to her. The woman is Mason's grandmother, Ivy. She's collected many items from around the world. Chris shows her the whistle and says she found it in Mason's locker. Ivy slowly shakes her head and says, "You didn't find it. It found you." She continues, "Just like it found my grandson. Just like it found me. And it took my grandson and my daughter." Chris explains that they were told the writing on the whistle means, "Call the dead." Ivy shakes her head again and says, "That's wrong. The real meaning is, call your death." If you hear the scream of the whistle, it calls upon a force known as Unchak, which brings your death to you ahead of time. Death appears exactly the way a person would see it in the final moment of their life. Ivy then hands the whistle back to Chris. After that, Chris and Ellie secretly sneak into a hospital to look at Mason's file. Ellie works there, so they manage to access the records. The report shows that Mason's body was found in a horribly burned condition. In fact, they had to use dental records to identify him. Just then, a doctor walks into the room, so Ellie and Chris quickly hide. While hiding, Chris notices a line in Mason's file. It says that based on the bone structure, the person appeared to be over 40 years old, even though Mason was only 17. Slowly, they begin to piece everything together. Maybe Mason was supposed to die many years later in a gas leak accident, and Mr. Craven's cancer might have killed him 10 to 15 years in the future. But now, all of them have heard the sound of the whistle. Realizing the danger, they rush out to warn the others because everyone is currently at the festival. Meanwhile, at the Harvest Festival, Rael is wearing a costume of a character, while Grace is dressed as a devil girl. Rael walks up to her and says, "Come on, let me win a teddy bear for you." Grace refuses, then enters a creepy haunted maze attraction. At that moment, Chris and Ellie arrive at the festival. Suddenly, Noah appears in front of them. This time, Ellie kicks him hard. Noah immediately pulls out a knife and starts chasing them, but Chris cleverly snatches the knife away from him. She reminds Noah that many children have died because of the drugs he sold. In anger, she slashes Noah across the nose with the knife, and then they quickly run away. Meanwhile, inside the maze, Grace continues moving deeper inside. Dean is following right behind her. Dean goes home drunk. In his room, he suddenly sees his own death. He quickly turns on the light, but no one is there. His father comes to the door and says, "You shouldn't drive after drinking. That's going to be the reason you die." Meanwhile, Rael is sitting outside in the rain, while Ellie and Chris are inside the house together. Chris opens up about her past. She says, "1 year ago, I took too many drugs. My dad found me and was driving me to the hospital. But about half a mile before we got there, a truck crashed into our car. Because of me, my dad died. And that's something I can never change. Sometimes I feel like I should have been the one who died." Ellie then steps closer and kisses her. Outside, however, Rael sees his own death. In the vision, he sees himself being crushed inside a huge machine at a steel mill. The next day, they all go back to see Ivy. Ivy's condition has become much worse. They ask her if there is any way to stop this. Ivy tells them that death cannot be stopped, but its path can be changed. The only way is to trade another life for your own. When your death comes near, you must mark someone else with your blood. If you do that, they will die instead of you. Just then, Ellie also sees her own death. In her vision, a needle is inserted into her wrist. Shortly after revealing this, Ivy dies. After hearing everything, Rael realizes that he might have found a way to survive. But Ellie immediately says, "If the solution requires killing someone else, I will never accept it." Chris says, "I saw my death too. I died from a drug overdose. I never want to go back to that life again." Rael then leaves on his own. Meanwhile, Dean is at home watching the news on TV. The report says that a dead body has been found at the festival, but the identity has not yet been confirmed. Suddenly, Dean's door begins to shake. The door flies open, and the hand reaches inside. Terrified, Dean throws a chair at the door. His father comes and asks what happened, but Dean refuses to open the door. Just then, his death strikes him from behind. like being hit by a car at full speed. When Dean's parents rush into the room, they see their son dying right in front of them. Meanwhile, Chris and Ellie go to Rael's room, but he isn't there. The only things they find are a picture of a steel mill and a torn page from a comic book. At that moment, Rael is standing outside Noah's church watching him. He walks inside holding a gun and tells Noah, "You're going to do exactly what I say." Noah laughs and replies, "You don't even know how to use that gun." Rael fires a shot, shattering a piece of glass. Just then, a bell rings, and Noah takes the opportunity to jump for the gun. The two start struggling. Noah manages to grab the gun, but Rael says, "I'm not dying like this." Noah pulls the trigger, but the gun doesn't fire. Rael then knocks him to the ground. The scene then shifts to the steel mill. Rael tells Noah, "This is where you're going to die." Rael searches Noah's pockets and finds some pills. Noah says, "Take one and you'll feel good. Take two and you'll start flying." Rael forces 3 pills into Noah's mouth. Then he cuts his own hand with a cutter. He places the whistle in front of him. Rael moves closer to mark Noah with his blood, which would make Noah die in his place. But just then, Ellie and Chris arrive and beg him to stop. Rael argues, "Someone like him gets to live while all of us die?" He slowly reaches out toward Noah, but at the last moment, he doesn't mark him. He stops, steps back and says, "I guess we're all going to die." That single sentence gives Chris an idea, but at that exact moment, Rael's death arrives. Suddenly, it's as if an invisible metal machine grabs him, and Rael's body is violently torn apart. Chris breaks down in tears. She looks at Ellie and says, "I'm not going to let it take you." She continues, "We can't run from death. We will have to die, but that doesn't mean we have to stay dead." Ellie has backup insulin in her car. Chris's plan is to use insulin to temporarily stop their hearts. They go to a closed auto repair shop. Ellie brings in her equipment. By this time, Chris has already started seeing her own death approaching. Inside the shop, she finds a defibrillator machine. They fill a metal container with water and ice. Ellie prepares the injection. Ellie injects Chris with insulin. At that moment, the terrifying form of Chris's death fully appears before her. She collapses into the water container and begins sinking beneath the surface. Ellie repeatedly tries to bring her heartbeat back using CPR and the defibrillator. Meanwhile, Noah regains consciousness. He grabs the gun and moves toward them. Using a hammer, he begins smashing the metal shutter door. Just then, Ellie starts seeing her own death. Noah nearly breaks inside. He shoots at the charged defibrillator, destroying it. Ellie is also hit by a bullet. While unconscious, Chris seems to relive every moment she shared with Ellie. She hears Ellie's voice calling her back. Chris moves toward the light, and suddenly her eyes open. She comes back to life, but when she looks around, she sees Ellie lying on the ground, wounded by the gunshot and struggling in pain. At that moment, Noah finally breaks in. He declares that he is a child of God and says he's going to finish them off. But as he moves forward, his hand touches Ellie's blood on the floor. The moment he touches the blood, Ellie's death disappears. Instead, Noah begins to see his own death. Terrified, he starts firing the gun wildly, but each bullet ends up hitting him instead, and he dies. In the end, both Ellie and Chris survive, and that is where the story ends.